Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I watched this video of Amber Heard fake crying, um, and I have some comments about what a bad actress she is, and this trial. I'm not gonna get into it, but I'm just gonna do a little video about this here. Not really, where what's going on with the trial, and lots of people have wanted me to cover it. And the reason is I know that most people favor Johnny Depp, right? Most people are on Team Depp. There's a whole bunch of disgruntled. And there's a group, I forget the name of the group. Don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. I can look it up. But it is young men who can't get women, who have sort of a women hater club out there. They were sort of brought together with the Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, right? The Joker. And they're all very upset at Amber Heard and being one of these women who, who represents what I've talked about before, the opposite side of the male abuser, right? The the woman as a life sucking victim that manipulates, and something that I've talked about in terms of my ex. But the issue here is Johnny Depp isn't a hero, right? Johnny Depp isn't, have his hands clean. I'm going to show you some testimony in just a moment, but I want to preface this with this because there's no right team here, right? There's no redemptive quality on either side, and so Johnny Depp has in a band with various dilapidated ex famous musicians called the Hollywood Vampires. And he's embraced the dark side in many places. He was in this movie called Dark Shadows, where he plays a vampire. And, he's always creepy in these roles. He has a lot of creepy roles. He has a lot of roles with these dark characters that are somehow heroic. In this case, it's kind of a light comedy about being a vampire. The other role that's significant is The Ninth Gate, where he was in a film directed by Roman Polanski, and he plays a real scumbag book dealer that somehow gets his hands on a book that reveals it's like a satanic book that reveals the way to get into the ninth gate of hell, right? Which he ultimately achieves at the end of the movie. He has this kind of bizarre sex scene with Roman Polanski's girlfriend at the time, who plays this sort of like a devil angel, right? She's like whatever that would be, like some sort of demon that watches over him. And it's a very creepy movie with lots of. It's just it's Roman Polanski, of course, is a convicted pedophile, and Johnny Depp, I mean all of these things, right? And so Johnny Depp, and he has so many things, Savage commercials, and all of his appearance, and his rings, and his skull stuff, and all of it, right? And so you can't look at this guy as being a good person, somehow the hero in this thing, right? Like Amber Heard may be the villain, but Johnny Depp certainly isn't the hero. Like it is, he has embraced the dark side. And you have to when you're this kind of iconic movie star. But having said that, Amber Heard is obviously not a good person. I've had a general dislike of her. She was in a Johnny Depp movie where he had that relationship with was it Hunter S. Thompson or something. He made that movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And also he made an earlier movie, I think it was set in Puerto Rico or some tropical place, where he was a younger version of Hunter S. Thompson, and she played his girlfriend, and she cheated on him and like kind of drove him crazy. I think that's where they met. I don't know. I don't know what it's about. Don't care. Don't tell me. Don't need to know. But just took a general dislike to her. Her mannerisms, the way that she presents herself, all these things. And she's not a good actress, right? Except she was awesome in Aquaman. She's not. She just basically sucks, and you can tell she's one of these like negative women. that's going to make your life worse. She has similar sort of lying, manipulative characteristics, and she's very manipulative in this court testimony. So let's just get into it here.
And I'm looking at it in his eyes.
He's looking in his eyes.
And I don't see him anymore.
She doesn't see him. Where are you? Johnny, where are you?
I don't see him anymore.
He's not there.
It was black. I've never been so scared in my life. It was black. I couldn't see him. And he was looking at me, and I...
See, it just seems completely fake. This is a way what she's describing here. When people, like I've experienced this with my ex, where there would just be almost like a takeover, right? Like something, like a possession almost, right? So what she's describing here is accurate, but she's doing it in a way that just seems so fake, right? Like, why is she crying here? Well, you can't tell these stories the way Johnny Depp tells these stories. And again, this is just some random thing from him. His testimony is like...
It was like there's my mom lying there on a deli platter. And it was a horrible image. But I brought my kids in to say goodbye.
He's talking about his mom's wake here.
And we all spoke into her ear. And
she was on a deli platter.
But it was it opened my eyes quite a lot to a number of things.
See, Johnny Depp's monotone delivery, unemotive for the most part. There's a part where he's sort of, wiping his eyes. And her hysteria, right? Like Donnie Depp wants to show that he's calm because he's being betrayed as an abusive, someone who's lost control, right? And her, hysteria.
I was trying to get through to him. I was trying to say to him in some way that it was me. I was trying to get through to Johnny.
Where's Johnny? Is Johnny there? Is Johnny? And so with her, like, it's hard to tell these stories. And I tell stories about, things I went through with my ex, things that people who haven't experienced something like that, like extreme, psychological breakdowns. I mean, people understand when people are drunk or have some sort of, on some hallucinogenic. But when people get into these depraved states and you experience something like this, there's no real good way to tell the story, right? Because it sounds, it's upsetting to people, and people immediately have a reaction like, oh, that can't be true, or, people just don't want to know that, things exist, like real war, what happens in war. It's hard to watch, abusive things happen in like a movie or something that's, depraved things. And then you're like, oh, it's just a movie. Like, it's hard for people to understand that things happen like this in real life, where people get into depraved states, psychological freakouts, right? And when you experience it, people have ways, like when you experience somebody having a psychological breakdown or getting, whatever, violent or getting, or self-abusive or you're suicidal and things like this, you have ways of denying it or, your defense mechanism just to, because it's too painful to see, right? And so much of it exists that people have trouble, managing these moments or things they experience or they hear about in stories, right? So for her, she wants to appear vulnerable, right? That's what she's going for here. They're both actors. Johnny Depp's trying to appear calm. She's trying to appear vulnerable.
And I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him at all. I could tell him that he was really hurting me. I didn't think he knew what he was doing.
So again, she's trying to say that she saw Johnny Depp as a better person. And that's a way that, it's a victim consciousness thing. When someone wants to appear to be a victim, like even when they're being, abused in some way, that they're still trying to appeal to the higher nature of the other person, right? This is like, it's just a way of making themselves look good, right? Like making themselves look like they're not any way contributing to the situation, right? They're not provoking it like some, situation where I could see her provoking whatever happened here purposefully, like bringing him down, like a way to, to get him, like, videotaping him, audio taping him, these things to do what she's done here, like on her side of the thing, right? Like Johnny Depp has a dark side. It's a dark marriage of two dark souls, right? And they're both, Johnny Depp comes off as controlling and these things, it becomes which side do you believe? And I kind of believe both of them talking about how the other one sucked because I think they both suck, right?
And what were some of those things that your mother's death opened your eyes to?
To be anything other than what she had been when we were younger. I forgave her for all that, as one should. So I was, it opened my eyes to the fact that yes, if you try in relationships, whether friendships, whether courtships, whether marriage, whether this, whether that, try your best to try. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And more importantly, if you're going to get out of it, if you're going to make...
Okay, Johnny, spit it out, buddy. The bits and pieces I've seen of him talk, not just here, his thoughts aren't very clear. Like whatever he does to get into these roles where he plays odd people, weird people. Of course, there's a script there. His normal demeanor is somebody who seems very confused, right? Brain damaged or, MK'd or whatever it might be.
I don't know how.
Like this stuff right here, right? Because she's in a court and has to tell the story, and so this is the way that she's telling it, right? Because she could tell it the same way Johnny Depp's telling it, but that wouldn't play well for her, right? See, it's trying to make people believe, but she's not a very good actress. And this is probably how she is, very dramatic, always has a lot of drama and very, controlling and manipulative. And, again, like she has some similarities to my ex in this way, right? And so there's just, like I said, there's a, way that somebody can be a victim and be in control of the situation, right? Where they're creating the circumstances of their own victimhood and they're pulling out negative things from other people. And then they're using that as a weapon against the person. Like they want the person to, be mean to them or whatever it might be, right? And then once that happens, they can control the person, right? The person feels bad about it, feels guilty. And so they use that like it's usually a woman to a man. It could be a man to a woman, but usually it's like the woman's side of the abusive coin, right? You have a male, idea of a male abuser who uses, physical strength or whatever it might be, more force, and where, the female version would use more victim consciousness, right? To manipulate and control the situation where I've read that quote before. The victim stance is a powerful one. The victim is always morally right, neither responsible nor accountable, and forever entitled to sympathy, right? So that would be somebody who manipulated the situation, provoked the situation, and then received a reaction, and then uses the reaction to gain sympathy and support. And this is what she's portraying here, right?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's not believable, right? Very similar, this is similar sort of way my ex would behave in this way, right? Very, almost like identical, which is kind of weird in terms of this stuff they just saw right here.
I'm sorry. I couldn't breathe. Please. I don't know. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
It's not. It's just so fake. Like, it's not real emotion. It's, contrived. Bad acting, right? And then you're kind of forced to. The person would be like, if you called them on their fakeness, they get angry and they get outraged. How dare you, right? This kind of thing, right?
How dare you?
Breaking out.
How
You're
dare
breaking out.
you?
It's
How
all right.
dare
Settle
you?
down.
Anything
How
you
dare
want that,
you?
but the bottom
How
line is very
dare
clear.
you?
When you
How
cross
absolutely
the border
dare you,
illegally,
sir?
you
How
have
dare
given
you?
up the
How dare you be so flippant, man?
Well, we say, how dare they?
So it's very manipulative. You have to play along because it's very controlling, right? Like, this is you're not supposed to call BS when somebody's crying or doing something like this. And then there's the threat of maybe self-harm and other things. I mean, all these things are wrapped up in this trial.
I couldn't.
So, and it goes on from here. It's like 18 minutes of this, and apparently there's a lot more. I just, I really can't watch it. It's just so fake and just so manipulative.
An end, which I had decided that it was, somebody had to call it, and I decided that I would call Amber and tell her that my mom had died that day. And then I very calmly said, look, I've made a decision and I think it's the best thing. I'm going to file for divorce, but I'm not going to cite irreconcilable differences. I'm not going to cite any violence. I'm going to state this. We simply, the two of us, we simply don't want to feel as though we have a collar around each other's neck and a leash attached to it, and then this piece of paper that proves that that's true. So what I thought was best was we want to end
It's the old collar and leash reason for divorce.
this in love and take the idea of ownership of one another out of the picture. And that's how I approached Miss Heard with that. And
So why did you go over to the penthouses on May 21st, 2016?
Miss Heard had requested that I come over to have a talk, to explain. She wanted to explain things, and so I went there. And I also wanted to gather up some of those things, precious things that you.
He has some precious things over at Penthouse, number 3. See, that's the spectacle of this. It's the fact that it's on TV. It's just the drama and everybody talking about it, right? It's like, a major distraction, like people said, that opposed to the J.E. trial or the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, right? Why weren't those public and why weren't those more, this is something that's like a show, right? This is a part of the show, but it's more of a show, and it's got so much interest from people. But there's no heroes here. There's nobody to root for. Doctor accused of overprescribing fentanyl to critically ill patient. Johnny Depp testifies in lawsuit against ex-wife, and so neither one of these people is very likable. And they're not very redeemable in this sense, right? And just, it's everything from the Hollywood beast. So I want to hopefully work on my Journey series video today, and I have another video to make, about that new FDA ruling that came out for my other channel. So I want to stop here. Like, there's nothing really more to say. It's like two unlikable people who had a bad relationship possibly, or maybe just some fake staged Hollywood relationship. And they're, playing out some either fake or real drama here. And there's no redemption here. There's no side to be on. There's no anything. Certainly Amber Heard is more unlikable, just, based on what we saw here. But, what's that, right? I mean, what does that really actually mean? Only spirituality will save this world. It's power motto, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.